You are listening to Heart Over Ego Radio, a network of shows offering healing and guidance for your beautiful journey. Tune in on Mondays for the Alchemy Sisters, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. Tuesdays, tune in and tune up. Body Awareness and Self-Care, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Wednesdays, One for All is Love, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, Unbound with Cynthia Martin, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Fridays, The Witching Hour with Green Witch Village and the Alchemy Sisters, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, Rain Radio, 10 Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays, Creating Heaven on Earth, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And Sundays, Everyday Psychic Radio at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. This is the Heart Over Ego Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to Creating Heaven on Earth, ascending from the 3D to the 5D. You are here with Mandee Elam, and each week that I host this podcast, which is most Saturdays, but not every Saturday, I like to invite on a different way shower and someone who's starting to speak the language of ascension and start to break down what that looks like for all of us. And this week, I'm so excited and honored to hold space with Reverend Sibyl Star, who is an incredible astrologer. Welcome, Sibyl. How are you?
I'm very well, Mandee. Thank you.
I'm so excited to hold space with you. Can you please tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Well, yes, as you said, I do astrology professionally. I've been doing that for about 20 years, but I'm going to say I've been a lifelong student. Discovered it when I was around 12 years old and realized I finally had found something that started to make sense to me about life because nothing had before then. So probably for a lot of us, we find it. And so I've been doing that. And like you said, I'm a reverend. I'm a reverend of it's called of Her Walking Prayer through the Center for Sacred Studies, which is they have a wonderful ministry program that is based in Indigenous wisdom and prayer, and deeply involved with Indigenous people. My spiritual community is, and of course in their connection to the Star Nation. And have learned a lot in that way as well. What else do I want to say? Well, I'm also a nurse. I've been a nurse 40 years, and I still do hospice nursing.
Thank you for working the front lines for us.
Yes. Yeah. Very part-time, though, but still there.
I can see your energy in that. I've been really holding space with a lot of just clients and healers and people who've spent a lot of time in the death doula realm, and helping to transition and helping to bring a different sort of light to it. So I just think it's incredible that you're holding space there and continuing to do that.
Yes, I mean, and I would say just from my own experience of being in our healthcare system for 40 years, to me, it's still the one part of our healthcare system that still works. There's a lot of problems in our healthcare system, but hospice still provides a wonderful service to people.
I've heard that several times, and I'm glad we're giving that a little bit of light and attention because it's true, and it's one of those things that it's really uncharted territory for a lot of people, and it's something that, we're really great at welcoming in babies here into this realm and this earth, but when it comes to transition, we tend to get more uncomfortable around it, and it's something that I believe we're going to be growing as we ascend into what this new earth vision looks like, and, we need more and more lessons about it and just more comfort that it's part of the life process.
Right. It's a birthing into another reality. It is, and we know from the other side, there are beings that are birthing us into this reality. So it is the chain of life.
Absolutely. That's something you were saying that you hold a lot of Indigenous wisdom or have learned a lot of Indigenous wisdom. And that's just something I picked up along some shamanic teachings a long time ago, that death is really just the beginning of, or the beginning, really. Death is just the beginning of a whole nother experience.
Right, exactly, into a different reality. And it's kind of similar to, I think, what's happening right now on the earth. And as we're, the topic we're looking at is creating a new earth. We're in that exact place. We are seeing the end, the dying process of a paradigm that we have lived a long time, and we're birthing a new reality, but we can't see the other side. And so there is a lot of fear around that, just like there is fear around death. And, it's coming to terms with, just like our own deaths, we are at a place, it feels to me like, and I'm going to bring in some astrology right now. I don't know, are you familiar with Dr. Stan Groff?
I am not.
Okay, he is pretty well known here on the West Coast, and I think around the world as well. And what I know him through is holotropic breathing. He is the one that really started the breath work process of people becoming conscious through the use of their breath. And he's a psychologist, or I can't remember if I think he might be a psychiatrist. I'm not sure. I think he's an MD, so he's probably a psychiatrist. But anyway, he's also deeply into astrology, as was Carl Jung.
Love Carl.
yeah, he's a student of Carl Jung, I would say, a big student of Carl Jung.
Okay.
And he has created he along with another man named Rick Tarnas, who's a really famous astrologer who also teaches at the California Institute of Integral Studies. And they had created a program where they align different astrological energies with the birth process. And you've been listening to the astrology that I have videos that I do twice a month, and I'm getting ready to do more public work, but I do those two. And I've been talking about that a lot, about we are in a time of, with this Saturn and Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. Pluto is about death and rebirth, death, transformation, and rebirth. And Saturn is about limitation. And they're like the two really big guns of the zodiac. When they come along, they're bringing challenges. And so Stan Groff aligned these planets with the birth process. And he aligned Saturn. Times of Saturn are aligned with like the contractions when you're giving birth, and the contractions come because Saturn brings in and for the baby to come out, it has to have both expansion and contraction. So it moves the baby along. And so Saturn is that contraction piece where everything feels limited and tight, and you have to breathe through that process to get to that expansion. And Pluto is the part of the birthing process where the baby doesn't know if it's going to make it. It's dark, is in the dark, doesn't know where he's going, and just has to rely on that inner guidance and that trust and that faith that they will get through. And they have also given up what they knew, the baby knew, as the comfort of the womb, going into an unknown frontier, which is life. I feel like we're in that same process. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where we are. And so, we're in these times of just incredible, great change. And so many are talking about the birth of a new earth. They're talking about moving into a five-dimensional world, as you spoke of, and that which is the ascension process. And there's some Native American prophecies that I'm going to say also I base a lot of my work on, because I walk in, I'm not Native American at all, and I don't claim to be, so I don't want to appropriate anything, but I have had their teachings, a lot of teachings, and become aware of many of their prophecies, and it hits my heart as truth. So I combine that with my astrology, okay? And So, because the Native American teachings, the Native peoples, they're listening to Mother Earth, but they also have a big connection to the Star Nation, and they, their perspective is often different, and they often speak in metaphor. Okay, but anyway, so I want to get back to that. So I heard a prophecy that was given a few years ago, and it lined up with the ascension teachings. And when I hear something, like I said, from the Native peoples, and it lines up with another truth or another teaching, then it kind of hits as truth. And this was the prophecy, and it's a mini I don't know how old, but a very ancient prophecy, that there would be a time, which appears to be these times right now, that Mother Earth would be moving into higher dimensions herself, and that we would be moving with her. The question is not if. The question is not if. The question is how difficult or smooth will that transition be? Okay, and I've heard like Rick Tarnas has said, these times we're moving through the eye of the needle. We're moving through challenging times in the birth process of a different reality, okay? And the thing is, when you move to a higher dimensional reality, all the lower vibrational energies have to be left behind, so they have to come into our conscious awareness. And so that's a piece of what I feel is happening right now. And as you go through the eye of the needle, you can't take the old baggage with you. We can't create a new world with the energy that we're living now.
Absolutely.
Okay? Yeah, that's the deal. And there's another prophecy that, they're not really the Hopi have been saying that during these times we can go down a portal, we can go through a portal or down a hole. Okay, and there are many indigenous people that are saying that there's a really big potential for a split. For those that are at a higher vibration, they will go into this fifth dimensional reality with Mother Earth. But there are some that will be staying because they haven't finished their work here. Their vibration is not yet high enough. And how that would look, I don't know. I know as we move more into an understanding of the quantum field, that our understanding of the nature of reality will be changing. And so, is there anything you wanted to say, Mandee? I know I'm talking a lot.
Oh, I was just letting it come through. It's amazing, and it's very in alignment with a lot of the things I've been shown from my guides and sitting with my heart. And I really feel like the simplest definition for me of the 5D is when you can shift into a perspective where there's no limits, and that the 3D is very limited in a lot of ways. And I do feel like this is very much going to be a revolution that happens because of our inner evolution. And so the more we take a look at our shadows, we look at the things that are holding us in limiting beliefs and keeping us bound, then the more the easier we start to loosen that energy up. And I very much feel like the fourth dimension for me and what I've been shown is the astral plane, is the dream state, is the place where a lot of times we can do this work and the cord cutting and release the energies. And I think, with everything that's happening, there's going to be a lot of souls who choose to step more forward into the more fifth dimensional ways of thinking and start to do their shadow work. And then there's going to be some that hold so tightly onto their beliefs that create such limits in their realm and in their own personal matrices, I guess, that they'll be kept bound. And some of them, I feel like every single soul, just as it chooses to come into this earth, will choose when it leaves. And some of them may not want to stay too long, and that's completely up to them and what their soul path is at that time. So I see that divide also very clearly, and it's going to be interesting. What I think is magnificent through the whole COVID thing, no matter where it came from, who did it, what happened, what I think the cool part about it is that people And beings have been able to be, for the first time ever, on a more mass level, in their own biomagnetic field, which goes out 6 to 8 feet around us. The best way I like to describe that is that's your comfort zone. You can't see it. You don't know it's there. But if you're at the grocery store and someone comes up into your zone, you know how it feels. And with all this social distancing, we've had some time to clear some clutter out of our biomagnetic fields, and we've had some time to start getting a little clearer on who we want to be, who we are, and how we're serving this earth. So I think that it depends on consciousness and how each individual decides to perceive this experience that we're going through right now.
Right, I agree. Yeah, so I want to take up on what you just said as well about the possibility. Absolutely, that is exactly where creation happens. It's in the field of all possibility. And that is a big piece of leaving the old beliefs behind, because if we believe something can't happen, it won't. Okay? And as we step into the quantum field and understand that we are creating the world, and we're creating it unconsciously right now, so how can we co-create? How can we create it more consciously? And I had an experience a few weeks ago. It was probably more like 6 weeks ago. It was a ceremony that I went to, and I had the experience of leaving this reality and moving into what I'm just going to refer to as the vastness. And it was out beyond the field of right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And like my friend said, yes, and the field of right and wrong, is God too. It's all God. It's just a different place. And so out in the field beyond right and wrong, in the field of all possibility, it was a place that was, for my experience, it was a place of just liquid mind is what it was like. And there's no other way to describe it. And I saw of course, I don't remember all of it, but that I was shown how to create. And the vastness was completely dark except for the light within me. And the light within me is what was creating. And I saw the light coming from me, the light and the vibration, the frequency coming from me, moving out into that field to create. And I was asked a question when I was there. And the question was, why do you keep creating the same reality over and over when there are so many others? And I was shown at that time, like, how science tells us that our cells, we have a whole new body every 7 years, but we keep recreating basically the same illness, the same, and it's all, many say that it is all based on our beliefs. Okay. And so I kind of saw it that way, as why do we keep creating the same reality when we're creators, and it's time to remember. And I was also shown that many from the Star Nation are here now to help us remember that we are creators, because things are shifting, and as the old is falling apart, which it is, it's the decay, the corruption, when the foundation is that corrupt, it's time, it can't hold any longer. Mm-hmm. And so it is like that birthing process. We're in that stage, as the death, the death doulas, those that are the call themselves death midwives, which is actually we are in both. We have a foot in both worlds.
I always say that, one foot in the 3D, one foot in the 5D.
Yes, exactly. And so I also had, I just recently did a new video for the full moon, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, but
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, what really came through was really interesting was that I often use in my work something called the Sabian Symbols. And what the Sabian Symbols are is back in the 1930s, there was a woman named Elsie Wheeler that had a vision for every degree of the zodiac. And I often use those. It often adds a deeper level of understanding of what is going on. And so the vision, so the Sabian symbol or the vision was a vast staircase moving upward, or was it? Well, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was a vast staircase that was going upward. And the vision that came to me, or the image that came to me, was a stairway to heaven, and that's what I called it. And so I talked a lot in the article about this being times of soul mastery, that we're on the hard questions on the test. You know?
Yeah, we sure are. It's time to pair the intention with the action, because we have to pair these impulses we get in our brains with actual life force to create that change and to bring it and ground it down.
Right. And and ultimately, no matter what is happening in the outer world, it is all about our own soul growth. And so no matter, it's like no matter what, it's making choices based in love, making choices based from the heart, making choices based in truth. And it's all about free will choice too, by the way. That is, I just recently read something that was just kind of really kind of profound in a way to me. And it was a story that was based on the Garden of Eden, which is not a story I'm all that fond of, but yet it kind of showed the energy. Mm-hmm. And it said that at the Garden of Eden, the beings were they were living in paradise, but they were unconscious. And there was a choice there was the gift we were given at the time of the Garden of Eden was free will choice. Okay. Mm. And so that is what made the shift for us to be in paradise, but to be conscious, to be one with Creator, but to be conscious versus unconscious. And this has been the journey. And we have, the journey is first away from Creator, it's separation, but it feels like we're making a shift now, and there's a return to Creator.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There has to be in order for us to advance. We don't have a choice. And I feel like as more and more become, my favorite word right now is apocalypse, because in Greek it means the unveiling. And, as more and more people realize some of these conditions or programmings or beliefs that they've been taught might not, pair up with them advancing into this new earth a little bit, there's going to be a lot of, traumas and dramas and cognitive dissonance, but an opportunity again for even to learn and become aware that we have such free will and choice.
Right. Yeah.
I believe, I guess it gets into the conspiracy stuff, but that we were intentionally dimmed down via our societies and our cultures and religions, and that they picked guilt, shame, fear, which are some of the lowest vibrations we can possibly feel here, to keep us a little bound. And the more we move away from that, the more we create our sovereignty and the more we're able to ascend collectively.
That's exactly right. I totally agree with that. That's what it is about. And so even though it feels like, we are going into some dark times, and we are, and yet it is also the stairway to heaven, because these are the major teachings of our lifetime. Okay? It's kind of like every generation has, I'm going to say, a major teaching. I just got through reading a book on the French Resistance in the Second World War, and the role women played, and how many women were involved in rescuing children and Jewish children. And, people make choices, and we are in hard times. So it's always about making choices in alignment with love and choices in alignment with truth. And it often takes courage to make those choices. And I feel like we are moving into a time like that, and it's still all about our own soul growth and still all about the choices we make in our life as to how, is how we move forward in consciousness.
Always. Absolutely. Every single decision you make has a ripple effect. I guess if I could pick one word for like the collective for the next 10 years, it would maybe be like integral or integrity, and like tuning back into heart and doing, what's best for you and for the highest good. And I always encourage my clients and try to remind myself, if I make decisions based on what my heart wants most and not what anyone else thinks or might think, then most often it's for the highest good. If that's, a pure intention and it's a pure thought from your heart, then it often creates like such a nice ripple for everyone. And then we can all start to live a little bit more harmoniously. But everyone's making decisions outside of themselves still. Basically, with everybody else's actions or reactions or what they think or might think. And then it keeps us so bound, and people aren't following or syncing up with their soul path that really connects right into that beautiful heart space we all have.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's how I see it. It's so the other piece, of course, is about how to move into the fifth dimension, how to create in the fifth dimension, or how to create a fifth dimensional world. Okay, and so how I see it is two ways. One is of course, it's how you live your life every day. It's the vibration that you put out in the world, because that is what creates. And so if you want to live in a world where there's kindness, be kind. If you want to live in a world where you have fun, go out and have some fun. Enjoy your life. If you want to live in a world where nature is honored and respected, honor and respect nature yourself. I mean, that's how you do it in your own personal way, is you live that vibration. You put that, we need to each put that vibration into the field to raise the vibration, okay? The second way that I see is working in groups. I think we are at a time where working together, like the work you're doing tonight, the more we can gather in groups, whether it's online, which for some of us, that's the only way we can, but others who can meet in person, to know that we're creating a web of energy, and it's like it's like a frequency. It's like attuning yourself to a certain frequency, and that frequency, I'm just going to call it love. But love encompasses all ways of living and being. It can be, about being compassionate, but it's about having a focus, taking that energy and shining it like a spotlight, turning on that vibration, that frequency, that radio station, and then working together, like envisioning a world where these qualities live, that is the world we live in, okay? And and also to be not be attached to how it's going to look, because the vibration and the frequency is what creates it. I mean, if you get a great idea that is in alignment with that, and the thought is there as well, I think that can speed things along. But it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever read that book by Greg Braden. It's called The Lost Mode of Prayer.
I've read excerpts, but I haven't read the whole thing. I've heard of it.
Well, yeah, this was one of the classes that we had in my ministry program where we studied that book. And what Greg Braden says in it is that, okay, so this is the story he tells. He tells the story of going out he has an indigenous friend, and they're going out to the desert to pray for rain. And so they get there, and his friend creates a circle, stands in the middle of the circle, and just is praying. And he's praying to himself. He's not even praying out loud. And he comes out, and Greg says, "Well, I thought we were praying for rain." And he said, "No, we were praying rain. When you pray, you pray for something that has already come. You say thank you, and you feel it. It all comes from the feeling realm. that he went out there and he felt the rain on his face. He felt the rain, the coming to the ground and all of the plants drinking it up. And he was saying prayers of great gratitude for the prayer, the blessing that was already on its way. And Greg said shortly after it started raining. So,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful example, because that's, and that's a little bit of what I was talking about earlier with like feeling into these vibrations and why, we were taught to feel maybe some lower vibrational things. But that's when you want to manifest something, you have to feel into it and believe that it'll come to you and know that it will come to you.
Yes. Yes. And, vibration, and it's also sound, combining sound that is at the right, what are they called, hertz, that is in that field, like different kinds of sound. I think that also, let's just say if you're in a group, if you have like a singing bowl or you have a Tibetan bowl, those kinds of sounds can lift the whole vibration of the group. Of let's just say, you're wanting everyone to get in that same vibrational field, that frequency, have that kind of energy, because then that helps the whole group lift their vibration to that level and then do that focus. And I kind of see vibration as feeling and light as thought, and they need to work together.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they need to work together, and that's what tunes into the frequency.
There it is. There's some creating heaven on earth recipe for magic right there.
Right, exactly. And I feel like, Mandee, like this is unfolding. This, I don't, there's, like I said, I had this message that, our star relatives are here now. They're helping us remember, because we have forgotten how to create consciously. But we do know how to do it, and it is helping us remember. And I feel like it's an unfolding process, and we need to, and we're going to be shown what we need to know when the time is right.
Yes, that's one of my prayers each morning. I just say, I'm a huge Louise Hay fan, and we've definitely hinted a lot to belief and changing what you believe about yourself. And I feel like she's like a fairy godmother to us in the sense of being able to start to guide us through that. And when I first read her book, I came across something in it that basically hinted to that which I need to know, please be revealed to me. And so each day when I wake up and I take my 3 deep breaths to say thank you for allowing me to breathe, because breath is life. And I feel as though half the reason most of us incarnate is just to feel the physicality and all the feelings and breathe, because we're often in light bodies and other places. And then I'll ask, to be of service, and that which I need to know, please be revealed to me. Because it can get overwhelming, and you can put so much pressure on yourself with all the potential things. Like, there is not enough lifetime in each lifetime to learn all the things here on this amazing planet. And so when you just tune in to the portal of your heart and you trust in spirit and your guides and ask them to help reveal to you that which you need to know, and, that may come in a vision, or it might just come as, a book or a passage or something somebody says to you, it'll lead you along your own soul path and your own sovereignty.
Right, exactly. And, talking about the breath, there is something I want to say. We know that life force is in breath, and that when we get scared, we stop breathing, okay? Okay. And through this pandemic, I just find the correlations of, we're afraid to breathe. I mean, this pandemic has made us afraid to breathe, and it's what we need more than anything now, is to be able to breathe, and to breathe because we breathe through the fear. I mean, that's what happens when constriction happens, when we get afraid. When we take deep breaths is what can move that energy, okay, and into expansion.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just hoping your listeners understand the symbolism of let's just say masks, what that means, and because it's very much about when you don't want someone to speak, you put a mask over their mouth, and the other thing is that when you think of masks, you think of someone trying to hide their identity. So it's like your our authentic selves are being compromised. That's what I think. I mean, there might be, there's all kinds of conflicting science around the actual virus. I mean, so I'm really talking more about the symbolism. Like when you have a dream and someone's wearing a mask, what do you think? When you break that down, I mean, there's a lot of symbolism behind mask, and it's a disempowering symbol.
I agree. I definitely, I've had my fights with it within myself, and I'm someone who I'm very much a change maker and a revolutionary and a Magdalene through and through. And I have really decided, okay, well, if I have to wear the mask, then I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to get even better at breathing. And it's actually encouraged me, because I'm typically on, my more conscious waves, to get really clear about my breath and intention and when I'm breathing, even when I have the masks on. And then I often send love to all the people who always have to wear the masks, like the doctors and the people in the armed services and things like that. And I always go back to, like, the species that survives is the one that adapts most to change, not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest, the one that's able to adapt most to change. And I'm like, all the traumas and dramas I've overcome, I can overcome this, because I have asthma and a vocal cord dysfunction, and it was something that was giving me a little bit of anxiety, because I'm like, oh shit, that's going to trigger all that for me. And then I'm like, oh, what did I learn when that triggers? How to breathe and how to open it back up so I can do this. And then at the same time, I've also been using it as an opportunity to communicate more with my eyes and with my energy and telepathy. Because I'm like, well, I can't get around this right now, and everybody's doing it, so I got to just dance. And I try to be like kind of one big moving prayer all the time. So I'm like, well, how can I study this better and dance in it a little closer? And with that, that's how we can often, for our listeners out there, alchemize our fears when we turn it into curiosity. I was like, oh shit, I'm going to have a bunch of asthma attacks and my vocal cord dysfunction is going to be crazy. I'm like, or I can just suck it up like I do everything else and look at it at a different angle, feel my feelings first, then look at it at a different angle and see how I can adapt. And also trying to find different ways to communicate. I'm like, all right, more Facebook videos, more writing, more ways to get this out there. Like, if you were going to try to, bound my voice, then I'm going to try to find another way to come out.
Yeah.
That's
I'm not
that's
saying
the
to not.
worry in me.
Yeah, I'm not telling people to not wear masks. People are going to do what they're going to do. I'm talking about the symbolism of it, of what masks are. So it's like, yes, we do need to adapt, and it does will make you will help your sanity to just be able to adapt and do what's asked of you by the culture. And I'm doing the same, but it has also not been lost on me, the symbolism of what masks are. Okay. And breathing and being afraid to breathe, when the breathing and prana, that is where the life force comes. And so, I think it's just important to hold both. How do you move through this world in a way to stay sane? Where, basically pick your battles. And I understand that. You pick your battles, and that is absolutely, I feel, the best way to proceed. But yet, it's not lost on me, what the symbolism of that it means, and I just think it's important for people to remember that.
I think so, too, because I feel it has been wildly fascinating to me just how quickly everyone has conformed based on fear.
Yes, absolutely, and that's it. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is that I listened to a woman today, I wish I could remember her name, Laura Uplinger, I think is her name, and she has been working for the last 40 years with conscious pregnancy. Okay, and it just kind of hit me that I feel like that's also a piece of moving into this 5D, creating a 5D world, is the young women that are of birthing age, how important conscious pregnancy is. And because what she was saying was, the more conscious the pregnancy, the more conscious the soul that is born. or the potential for that. And what made me think of is like Mary and Jesus. When Jesus, in their story, whether it's true or not, or whatever you believe around that, part of the story was that that a very sacred and holy conscious woman was chosen to give birth to a conscious being. And I feel like more conscious beings want to be born, but for them to be born, the pregnancy, the more conscious the pregnancy, the more conscious the potential for the child to be. Okay, and it just made me wonder if some souls don't make it because many pregnancies are unconscious. I know my own was, which I certainly wish it would have been much better. I could have made other choices, but I feel like let's put it this way, that's in the field. Okay. I feel like that is in the field, and I feel like it is correlated with the analogy for giving birth to a higher consciousness here on Earth, as we are all in a pregnancy right now.
I love it. And I feel that way very much. I agree. And I think that's a big part of what so many of us are doing here now, is creating like a lighter path for some of these newer, more conscious, higher vibrational, if you will, beings to incarnate here, because it's still a little too dense. And we're really, this past 100 years, I got to say, I feel like we've been really kicking ass. We didn't even get sexual harassment laws until about 30 years ago. And so the whole mental health, spiritual, emotional, it's just starting to really still be talked about. Even me growing up, like I'm 34 now, and I was able to go to see a counselor or go to therapy, but I know that it was more taboo for my parents and people their age. My grandparents, no way. And if someone in their generation had a miscarriage, often they never talked about it or spoke to anyone about it. They weren't held. It's been a very emotionally dense space, and there's a lot of traumas and dramas and insecurities that I think make, create this lower vibration that these newer souls can't really quite get into yet. But I do think we're on the verge, and more people are coming more conscious. And just like you said, Sibyl, it's like you do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, you do better. So,
exactly.
For all the you and all the other moms out there, you just did the best you could at the time, and look at how far and how much you've expanded since then because of it. So, for everyone out there, it is all always divine. But the more conscious we become, the more of these helpers we can get here to create this new earth.
Exactly. Yeah, and I didn't say that to make anyone feel guilty. Like I said, I walked in that path too. And it's exactly like you said, that, when you do know better, you do better. And I think there is more opportunity now for younger women to become conscious during their pregnancy, and to make and to know there are different choices. I grew up, when I had my son, no one was breastfeeding, no one I knew. My mother, had a general anesthetic. It's just, but at least when I came around, I didn't do the general anesthetic. So, right, we're moving in a different direction to make that all more fertile for more conscious souls to come in, which will also be a part of this process.
Absolutely. I think I always joke around. I get blown away by these kids who are like, oh, let me do a little science experiment. Well, parents, Wi-Fi is not really good for these plants right now. And then you got other kids discovering algae that eat plastic, and, people and these little beings that come in with this ancient remembering that so many of us have to get through all of our traumas and dramas and beliefs before we allow that to come in. And they're coming in very innocently with a lot of these rememberings. And if we just listen to them, it'll give us a little bit of a lift up sometimes, I think.
Right, and I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing is we're doing cleanup. We're carrying not only our own stuff, but generational stuff. And by people in my generation, your generation, and you're much younger than me, becoming more conscious, as they say, when we heal ourselves, we heal 7 generations before us, 7 generations after us in Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And so, it's like both have to happen for the new to be born. It's like the house cleaning needs to be done. The energetic field needs to be cleaned up. And I think that is a lot of what we're doing.
Absolutely. And Jenny, one of our lovely co-founders here on Heart Over Ego, she's always talking about that, and that the next, it's 4:44 my time. I always enjoy that. The next generation here over the next 10 years, it's really going to be the time of the healer, and it's going to be the time of cleaning up everything mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of the systems, the beliefs. It's going to be, quite a chapter in doing that so that we really can pave the path.
Yes, exactly.
So we have to give attention to it. We've been pushing it under the rug. We haven't been paying attention to it for a long, long time now. And so now every single being is going to go through an apocalypse of some sort within themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And as you know, and as Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, we were made for these times. I think everyone who is here now chose to be here because they knew this was a big and important time for Mother Earth and all of her children, and that we chose to be here to be part of this.
I agree. That's something I can just not deny within my own being, that there was always this kind of unshakable remembering, or this knowing that I'm here to do something and be here, and there's a reason for it. And I know so many other people feel the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And, and in my morning prayers, and so there's another piece of that I wanted to share about ways to keep our vibration high. And one is to remember everything is divine. And as my friend says, and this is God too. Everything. This is God too. 2, nurture life. And 3, gratitude. The attitude of gratitude changes everything. And I've actually started saying a prayer every day where I thank Mother, Divine Intelligence, Creator, all of the words we call for Source, or that I call to Source, being thankful to be able to participate in this great shift, to be here at this time, and to just, saying that I walk in service to love and truth, and to allow me to listen to the guidance that I'm given, but that I am so grateful to be here in these times. And I am.
Absolutely. I think about it every day, especially on like the worst days and as things are getting just
there you go.
Like
right.
wild. I'm like, I'm really grateful to be here. I know this is why I'm here to witness all this right now. And it, and though it's chaos, it lights me up in a lot of ways because it feels like there's purpose to why we're here.
Right. And it's in the chaos that the new is born, because the chaos is the breakdown. And it's happening. All of these things coming to light that have been hidden for so long. And I'm going to say I haven't believed. I've been very skeptical over the years of things that I've heard. And and I've just had some incredible awakenings lately, and that is the thing to remember, is to as things are being revealed, we have to look at them. The light of consciousness is what actually heals them. They only survive in darkness. And so as we have, and so it's not that we get lost in them or in the paranoia of what is happening, but the ability to look at something and name it and say, yes, that's what that is.
Absolutely. Sibyl, I was wondering if you have any advice for our listeners on the balancing kind of the two worlds. You and I are both Facebook buddies, and we're active there, and we share different things, and we look at different concepts and whatnot. What for you works as a healthy balance of that, of taking, 3D action here in the revolution and then holding the 5D space at the same time?
Okay. Well, for me, everyone has their own role. And I think everyone has their own role. I have the role of messenger. I mean, it's just very clear. And what I'm learning to do is how to share a message that for me is truth, but not be attached to how people respond. That's their business. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a really big walk for me. How how to manage social media in a way that doesn't make me crazy. And another teaching I got, because this is another big piece of Mother Earth. Mother Earth is our guide right now, and she's constantly telling me to stay connected to her. I'm going today to the Redwood Forest to sit with her again, because that's what keeps me sane, is to find a way to connect with Mother Earth. Lay down on her. She can hold us in these times. And the message that she gave me once was that if my inner peace depended upon the actions of others, I would never find it. Mm. And so to understand that it's to move in this world from a place of peace. Okay, even if things are difficult, to be centered. A better way to say it is to be centered within yourself and non-reactive. Because when we're reactive, we're part of the problem.
We're taking, because energy can't really be created or destroyed. It can just be kind of moved and transmuted. So if you're picking all of that up and bringing it all in, then you become you're feeding what you don't want to be feeding in a way. Exactly.
Because this fear is feeding the fear monster. I mean, there is a fear monster out there that is living off fear. And it grows the more we feed it. Whereas, peace, we can feed that as well.
We sure can.
Yeah.
We sure can. I chose peace to be my word of the year in 2018, and every day I would just say I am peace. And when I get overwhelmed, I'd focus on I am peace. Or if I, wanted to think about anything in general, I'd bring it back in, I am peace. And it worked so much. And I learned so much that year about energies and myself and how to control my actions and my reactions. I talk to clients about this often. I'm not a parent yet in this lifetime, but I've worked with children a lot and I've observed them a lot. I was a Parks and Rec director and a summer camp person and lifeguard for eons. So I would literally just watch, people interact and kids interact. And from what I can understand, children learn everything from your actions and your reactions and your energies, and very little from your words. So as we're clearing this path and we're paving this path, paying attention to our energies and how we are reacting is not only important to us and our own well-being, but it's so important to those who are looking up to us.
Right. And the big thing is, of course, is to align our energies with Mother Earth. As she is moving into these higher dimensions, she is who we want to align with. So it's so critical to be out in nature. That is where she's the strongest. I mean, that is where this energy is the strongest, is out in nature. And so I just can't recommend highly enough to give that piece of guidance, to find a place where you can go and be and sit on Mother Earth, lay on Mother Earth. And I find, she can hold it. Anytime I'm stressed out, anytime I'm holding something really big, when I go, and even if I just lay on her, the stress leaves, the feeling leaves, and I feel so full and so expanded.
I feel the same way, and for our logical listeners out there, they're starting to scientifically prove this as we're really starting to ascend and bridge spirituality with science. And it's incredible. They're starting to be able to tell, the electrons leaving you and coming out of you and the pulses that happen and the actual frequency change that happens when you just go out and earth and ground and let the mother hold you.
Right. It's called earthing.
Earthing, yeah. You can look it all up, listeners.
Yeah, and there's actual ions in the earth that align your electrical field to hers. And a lot of new science is around the electricity and how the alternating current has gotten us out of alignment with Mother Earth. And that's why it's so important to go out and align electrically with her, not just. That's one of the things that happens when you lay on her, especially barefooted. Put your feet on her. That's the main thing.
And she, gives us so much and holds us so much all day. And the more conscious you can become, when you just go outside and you stare at a flower because it's beautiful, or a plant or an animal, and you admire her just as much as she's loving you, it helps her to heal too. It's a two-way street. So you're actually doing her a service as well. She's often looked aside and isn't always appreciated. And it's really nice when you can not only give but receive too.
Right. She's our mother, and she loves us, and she wants us to move with her. As she's moving, her consciousness is changing, and she wants us to go with her. We're her children. She loves us. And right, when we love her, it is the energy grows and expands.
Well, this has just been such a beautiful conversation, and thank you so much for holding space with us and bringing through all the beautiful wisdom that you did.
Oh, thank you, Mandee. I really enjoyed being here today.
How can our listeners get a hold of you or follow you if they want some more of your energy?
Well, okay, I have a Facebook page called Star Nation Oracle. I have a YouTube channel called Sibyl Star, and you need to spell my name Sibyl. I have a website, SibylStar.com, and I also have an email. It's called Sibyl@SibylStar.com. I do readings, astrology readings. I do videos, and then of course I'm on several radio shows.
You are on our sister station, Third Eye Political Radio. You have Political Star Talk with Jenny and Sonia, right?
That's correct. Every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday. That's an amazing one. So we have just about 5 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to share with us, or anything maybe coming up astrologically that we should all be prepared for?
Well, I guess the only thing I didn't say was the planet Mars is really active. And so Mars is the warrior. And things are getting, the energy, I'm going to say, is volatile. But Mars is also always about choice. We always have a choice. It's reminding us, no matter what, we have a choice. We don't have to do anything one way or another. Free will choice is our gift of creator, and it is what propels us into consciousness.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you can really use that Mars energy and that volatile energy. I've been feeling just some irritability or just energies that I don't usually feel, and I've noticed that within some of my friends and clients as well. And I'm wondering if it is that Mars energy just moving in and giving you that little push or gumption as to, hey, what are you going to do with this, kid?
Exactly. And Mars is also about action. And so it's that place in you that is disturbed, and it says, what are you going to do about it? And so, but it's also saying, to come from the heart. Not just jump in. But yes, I would say absolutely. And Mars is going to be in Aries for 6 months because it goes retrograde. It's a really big energy. And so if you want to know more about it, follow me on my videos because I'm going to be talking about Mars a lot. But yes, absolutely, the irritability, because Mars brings up conflict. And those places within ourselves and on our relations with each other where there's stuff that needs to be dealt with that maybe we haven't dealt with. And so here it is. It's now.
It's now in the unveiling, in the apocalyptic times. And, just for our listeners to remember, this is happening for you, and this is always going to happen. It's part of the Earth School, and while we're here, and we're going to expand as much as we can while we can. And so, when those crazy energies are coming through, I always encourage, myself and others to use that and transmute it into some sort of hopefully loving action. And sometimes that loving action is putting up boundaries and saying, no, you can't talk to me like that anymore in a personal situation. Sometimes it's, encouraging yourself to get up and go out and reground and regroup and renature and earth with Mama Earth. It's about taking that irritability and saying, why is this rising? What is this? How can I transmute it? And what should I put this energy towards?
Yes, exactly right. Mars is very much about drawing boundaries, and everything you just said, right? It's what do I need to deal? What's going on that I need to deal with here? That's why it's coming up.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, Sibyl, and thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in. We wish you all the best of times during this next Mars 6 months, as much as you can. And yeah, I just encourage everyone to ride the wave. Thank you so much, Sibyl.
Oh, thank you, Mandee.
Have a beautiful day. We're just going to play everyone a little commercial, and we'll be out.
You are listening to Heart Over Ego Radio, a network of shows offering healing and guidance for your beautiful journey. Tune in on Mondays for the Alchemy Sisters, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. Tuesdays, tune in and tune up. Body awareness and self-care, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Wednesdays, One for All is Love, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, Unbound with Cynthia Martin, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Fridays, The Witching Hour with Greenwich Village and the Alchemy Sisters, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, Rain Radio, 10 Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays, Creating Heaven on Earth, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And Sundays, Everyday Psychic Radio at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. This is the Heart Over Ego Radio Network.